My wife cheated with her boss, while I worked night shifts to pay rent, so I vanished. And she had no idea what was coming next. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I thought I married my best friend. Claire and I met in college. She was magnetic, funny, ambitious, always the center of attention at any party. I was quieter, more reserved. The kind of guy who brought snacks to study groups and helped people move on weekends without being asked. We balanced each other. At least I thought we did. After graduation, life came at us fast. Claire landed a marketing job at a rising tech firm, and I took a night shift security position at the hospital. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid our rent, and it gave her the freedom to pursue her dream. I didn't mind the late hours. I told myself that's what love was, sacrifice. Doing the boring, exhausting things so your partner can shine. Our schedules were like passing ships. I'd come home at 6 a.m. just as she was heading out. She'd return after dinner, usually too tired to talk. Still, I made her coffee every morning. I left little notes in her lunchbox. I never once complained, but lately something felt off. She stopped leaving me voice notes during her breaks like she used to. Her messages became colder, shorter. Sometimes she'd forget to text me goodnight at all. She said work was getting more demanding, and I believed her. I wanted to believe her. One evening, as I was about to leave for my shift, I asked if she wanted to grab breakfast the next morning, just the two of us. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I have a morning meeting with Brandon," she said quickly, grabbing her heels. Rain check? Brandon, her boss? I didn't say anything at the time, but that name would come back to haunt me in ways I never imagined. And at that point, I still thought we were okay. Claire used to tell me everything. How annoying her coworkers were. How her boss, Brandon, micromanaged everyone. How the office coffee tasted like burnt rubber. But slowly, that transparency faded. One morning, after a long shift, I came home to find Claire still asleep. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't even glance at it. I trusted her. But this time, a message preview caught my eye. It was from B, just the letter. Last night was incredible. Same time Friday, I froze. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might wake her. I stood there for a long moment, paralyzed. Then quietly, I walked into the kitchen, sat down, and tried to breathe. Maybe it's a joke, I told myself. Maybe it's just a friend. When she woke up an hour later, I asked carefully, "Hey, who's B?" She didn't miss a beat. "B? Oh, that's Becca from accounting. We've been working late on a new campaign." She smiled while saying it. That same effortless smile I used to fall in love with. And I bought it. Like a fool. The next few days, she started spending more. Clothes, makeup, perfume I hadn't seen before. When I asked about it, she shrugged it off. "I had a bonus, babe. You work so hard, I wanted to treat myself a little." I didn't argue. I just nodded, kissed her forehead, and went off to another 12-hour night shift. But the seed was planted. I started noticing things. She locked her phone now. She came home later and later. Her stories didn't always line up. One night, she said she was at a work dinner. But the Uber receipt in our shared account showed she'd gone across town. I told myself I was being paranoid, tired, insecure. But deep down, something didn't feel right. And soon, I'd have no choice but to face it. It was a rainy Thursday night when everything changed. There was a power outage at the hospital, and they sent half the staff home. It was barely midnight when I walked through the front door, soaked and exhausted, but secretly excited. Claire didn't know I was coming back early, and for a second, I thought, maybe we can cuddle, eat leftovers, watch something stupid together like we used to. But the apartment was dark, not a single light on. No TV glow, no music playing in the background like she often did when home alone. Her car was in the lot, but she wasn't there. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I stood in our tiny living room for a while, letting the rainwater drip from my coat onto the floor. Maybe she went out with friends? Maybe she was grabbing something quick at the store? An hour passed. Then 2. At 2:13 a.m., the door finally opened. She stepped in, hair a bit frizzy from the rain, heels in her hand, mascara slightly smudged. I stood up from the couch and she jumped, clearly not expecting me. "Jesus! You scared me?" she said, forcing a laugh. "What are you doing home?" "Power outage," I replied flatly. "Figured I'd surprise you." She blinked, then walked past me into the kitchen. "I was out with Becca. We had a girls' night." "You know, wine and venting," her voice was casual. "Too casual." She avoided my eyes as she poured herself a glass of water. I noticed something else. Her top was inside out. The tag was sticking out near her shoulder. "You sure you were with Becca?" I asked, not accusing, just asking. She turned to face me finally. "Why? What are you implying?" I stared at her, 1,000 things rising in my throat. But I swallowed them all. I just nodded and said, "Nothing." "Just curious," she smiled again. "Too quickly. You're tired. Go sleep." But I didn't sleep that night, because for the first time, I knew something was very, very wrong. The following week, I decided to bring Claire lunch. I told myself it was a romantic gesture, something spontaneous. But deep down, I wanted to see where she worked, to meet the people she always talked about, or more accurately, stopped talking about. I got to her office building around 1 p.m. It was modern, glass everywhere, all polished smiles and buzzing energy. The receptionist was polite but confused when I said I was Claire's husband.
She called upstairs and said, "She's in a meeting."
"You can wait in the lounge." So I did. About 15 minutes later, I saw her. Not Claire, him, tall, broad-shouldered, perfectly groomed. Designer suit. Rolex watch. That effortless confidence some people wear like cologne. He was laughing, hand on Claire's lower back as they walked out of a glass conference room. Her laugh was softer, controlled, like she knew she was being watched. When she saw me, she stiffened slightly. "Hey, what are you doing here?" she said, walking over and giving me a quick side hug. "Just wanted to bring you lunch," I said, holding up the bag. "Your favorite? Chicken pesto." Her boss stepped forward, smiling like a game show host. "Ah, the famous husband. Heard a lot about you. Night shift guy, right?" He extended his hand and I shook it. His grip was firm, dominant. He didn't blink. "Brandon," he said smoothly. "Pleasure." "Likewise," I muttered. Claire quickly took the bag and said she had to get back to work. No kiss, no warmth. Just tension. She didn't even ask me to stay. I left feeling something I hadn't felt before. Small, not just insecure, but invisible. Like I didn't fit into her world anymore, and Brandon, that smirk of his followed me all the way home. My birthday landed on a Sunday that year. Claire didn't say a word about it. No card. No cake. No off-key singing in the morning like she used to do while brushing her teeth. I waited all day, half expecting her to come bursting through the door with a surprise. Something, anything. But she didn't. I texted her around 11 a.m. "Hey, you free later? Want to grab dinner?" "My treat," she replied 4 hours later. "Sorry, babe. Total chaos here. Brandon needs the new pitch deck by tomorrow morning. I owe you. Promise." I just stared at the screen. Not angry, just hollow. That night, I ate a solo dinner at the 24-hour diner near my work. The waitress noticed I was alone and slipped a candle into my slice of pie. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said with a soft smile. I smiled back, and I think she could tell. This was not a good birthday. I told my coworkers Claire was planning something next week. I even described a fake reservation at some steakhouse uptown just to save face. But in truth, I went home to a cold apartment and an untouched note I had written weeks earlier, one I planned to give Claire if she surprised me. Instead, I burned it in the sink. The next morning, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed again, same contact. "B, missed last night already. Couldn't stop thinking about you." This time, there was no doubt. I stared at the message, heart pounding, while the water from the bathroom kept running. She came out moments later, hair wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing was wrong. I didn't say a word, but something inside me cracked open, and I knew. I couldn't keep pretending. There's a moment when love turns into something else, something colder. Not hate, not yet, but calculation. That's what I felt that week. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I was thinking, watching, planning. I ordered a covert voice recorder online. It looked like a regular USB charger, completely unnoticeable. I plugged it into the wall near the living room couch, where she always took her late-night Zoom calls. Next came a cheap motion-activated camera I hid behind the bookshelf. I angled it just right facing the apartment entrance. I felt sick setting it up, but not because I thought I was wrong, because I knew I wasn't. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Just her scrolling through her phone, pouring wine, half watching Netflix. Then came Friday. Claire got home late. Way later than usual. I was already at work staring at my phone like a madman, refreshing the camera app every few minutes. At 10:26 p.m., the front door opened, and there he was. Brandon, smiling, relaxed, like he'd been here before. He had a bottle of wine in one hand and his other hand already on her waist before the door even shut. She giggled. That soft, playful giggle I hadn't heard in months. Not directed at me, anyway. They didn't make it past the hallway before they were kissing. I couldn't look away. I watched everything. Every touch. Every moan. Every betrayal recorded in HD from the bookshelf. My hands were shaking. I nearly dropped my phone. But I didn't cry. I just stared, numb, hollowed out from the inside. She wasn't just cheating. She was comfortable doing it in our home, our space, our life, and that's when I realized she had no idea who I really was. Because the man she thought she broke? He was just getting started. The next morning, Claire kissed me on the cheek before I left for work. She smiled like everything was normal, like she hadn't spent the night wrapped around another man in our apartment. "Be safe, babe," she said, sipping coffee from the mug I bought her on our first anniversary. "You look tired." I nodded, biting the inside of my cheek until it bled just to keep my expression neutral. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not yet. Instead, I got to work earlier than usual. Not to guard the building, but to copy every file from the hidden camera and voice recorder onto a flash drive. Every laugh, every kiss, every lie. I labeled the folder simply, Truth. Then I started quietly building my exit. I opened a new bank account in my name only. Transferred half of our joint savings into it, enough to keep me stable for a few months. I stopped putting my name on new bills. Called our landlord and told him I'd be moving out soon due to personal reasons. I even started renting a small studio apartment across town under a different last name. Meanwhile, at home, Claire acted like nothing had changed. She started calling me sweetheart again. She made dinner one night, pasta, my favorite, like she remembered who I was. She even said, "Let's take a weekend trip soon." Just the two of us. I almost laughed. She didn't know I already had my escape plan in motion. She didn't know I was documenting everything, preparing legal steps, backing up files in cloud storage. Every time she kissed me goodnight, I pretended. Every time she lied, I smiled. But inside, I was sharpening the knife. And when I left, I was going to make sure she felt it. She thought she was getting away with it. That was the part that stung the most. Not the cheating, not even the lies, but the confidence with which she carried it all. Like I was too dumb, too passive, too in love to ever figure it out. But she forgot one thing. I watched. I listened. And when the time came, I acted without a single word. It was a Tuesday when she left for what she called a team retreat, 3 days in a cabin with her marketing crew. She didn't know I knew it was just her and Brandon. They weren't even careful anymore. As soon as her car left the parking lot, I got to work. I packed only what was mine. Clothes, essentials, my grandmother's watch, the photo album I kept hidden in my drawer. Everything else I left. The couch we bought together. The TV, the framed quote she picked for the kitchen. I didn't want any of it. I wiped my digital presence clean, logged out of shared streaming accounts, deleted every photo of us from social media, canceled my portion of the utilities and rent. I even left the key on the kitchen counter with a single sticky note. "Don't call. You made your choice." That evening, I checked into my new studio apartment, tiny, quiet, and clean. The silence felt like oxygen after months of suffocating in suspicion. I blocked her number, changed my email. Only my mother and my best friend knew where I was. No goodbye. No confrontation. No screaming match, just gone. By the time she came back, I would be unreachable. She'd walk into a hollow apartment with my absence echoing louder than any fight ever could, and she'd have no idea what was coming next. Because the divorce? That was just the beginning. She called me 47 times in the first 24 hours, texts, voicemails, emails, Instagram DMs, each more frantic than the last. "Where are you?"
"Are you okay?"
"Please just talk to me. What is happening?" She wasn't worried about me. She was panicking because the rug had been yanked from under her feet, and for the first time she had no script, no control, no audience, I watched it all unfold from a distance. I had a backup Instagram account I never told her about. Through it, I saw the post begin, first subtle. A photo of our cat. A selfie with the caption, "Rough week, send love." Then the real desperation kicked in. A Facebook post. "If anyone has seen or heard from my husband, please contact me. I'm worried sick. This isn't like him." Comments rolled in. Supportive friends, confused coworkers, concerned family. Some tagged me. Some even messaged my mother. She told them all the same thing. He's safe. He just needed space. Claire didn't know what to do with that. She showed up at my mom's house the next day. No makeup, messy hair, wearing the hoodie she used to steal from me. She was crying, my mom told me over the phone, begging to know where you were. I didn't tell her anything, I smiled. Not out of cruelty, but relief. Claire had spent months choosing someone else, in our bed, in our home, in her heart, and now she had to live with the silence she created. But the best part? Brandon stopped replying. She texted him while she was calling me. I know because I accessed her cloud backups before I left. His last message? You said your marriage was over. Don't drag me into this. And just like that, she was alone, and I wasn't done yet. I could have vanished forever. Started fresh? Let her rot in the silence. But that wasn't enough. She didn't just lie to me, she humiliated me. Took advantage of the man working night shifts so she could sip wine with her boss in our bed. She turned me into the punchline of her secret joke, so I made a call. I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, someone my cousin recommended. Sharp, ruthless, the kind of guy who doesn't blink at mess. We met twice and I handed him everything. The video footage, voice recordings, text screenshots, cloud backups, financial statements, even a breakdown of every lie she'd told. I want out, I said. But I want it done right, he smirked. Let's make it public. A week later, Claire received divorce papers. Not at home, not quietly, at work. Delivered straight to her desk during office hours. With attachments. My lawyer included printed screenshots of her messages with Brandon, explicit ones, accompanied by a polite note requesting her response within 10 business days. The fallout was immediate. She called me, then texted, then emailed. Please not like this. Let's talk privately. This could ruin everything. I didn't respond. HR got involved, of course. Brandon denied everything. Said she had misled him. Said it was all a misunderstanding. My lawyer had predicted that. Claire was put on leave pending investigation. Word spread like wildfire through her office. Her girls' brunch group dried up overnight. No one wanted to be associated with scandal, but I wasn't done twisting the knife. I had the lawyer push for spousal support. Not because I needed it, but because it made a statement. You don't get to cheat and walk away clean. That's when her emails shifted. From defensive to desperate. From how could you? To please, can we just meet once? But I had nothing left to say, because the man she betrayed, he had already buried the version of himself who loved her. I guess when the walls started caving in, Claire thought she still had one card left to play, my mother. It was a Saturday afternoon when I got the call. She was crying on the porch, Mom said, her voice low and controlled, holding some kind of photo album. Said she just needed 5 minutes. What did you do? I asked, already knowing. I told her she gave up her 5 minutes the day she gave up her vows. My mom's never been dramatic. She's the type who bakes for neighbors even when they've been rude. But she loved me hard and didn't take betrayal lightly. Claire begged, apparently. Said she made a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me, that Brandon pressured her, that she was emotionally vulnerable and felt unseen. She said you were always working, that you weren't present, Mom added softly. I laughed bitterly. I was working to keep us alive. I know, she said. And deep down? So does she. Claire left after 10 minutes. My mom didn't let her inside. That night, I checked Claire's social media. Her accounts were still public, probably a cry for attention. But something had changed. The comments had turned. People were starting to connect dots. Coworkers, friends, even a cousin or two. Someone must have leaked that she was on leave from work. The pictures of her and Brandon at company retreats were being scrutinized now. People weren't offering hearts or "you got this" anymore. Now it was things like, wait, weren't you married? Is this why your husband left? Wow, just wow. And Brandon, completely silent, no tags. No likes, gone. the pedestal she thought she stood on. Shattered, and for the first time in a long time. I slept like a baby, but she hadn't hit rock bottom yet. That was still coming. I used to wonder what rock bottom looked like. Turns out, for Claire, it started with an eviction notice. 3 weeks after the divorce papers were served, she defaulted on the rent. I wasn't on the lease anymore, remember? I made sure of that. The landlord gave her a 10-day notice. No more us, no more night shift husband footing the bills. She tried to lean on Brandon. I know because she emailed him multiple times, pleading, threatening, begging. His response? I'm sorry, my hands are tied. HR's watching everything. Please stop contacting me. The man she threw everything away for wouldn't even return her calls. Her company officially terminated her 1 week later. Violation of ethics policy, the letter said, according to someone I still knew in HR. Now unemployed, broke, and socially radioactive, she moved in with a cousin who clearly didn't want her there. I saw the cousin's Facebook post. It was a meme that said, "Don't let snakes sleep in your bed just because they're crying." The caption was, "Some people don't deserve second chances." I didn't need a name to know who it was about. Claire sent me another email. It was long. 5 paragraphs of bleeding guilt. She talked about how scared she was, how cold it felt waking up without me, how wrong she had been, how Brandon meant nothing, and how she thought I'd never really leave. She signed it with, "Even if you hate me, please just say something." I didn't. I didn't block her either. I let her words float into the void, unanswered. Let her sit in the silence she used to weaponize against me. Because this was her doing. I wasn't cruel. I just stopped saving someone who never once thought about saving me. And finally, she felt it. 6 months passed. I moved on mostly. The studio apartment became home. I bought a cheap couch, painted the walls a calming blue, and started sleeping through the night. Therapy helped. Quiet mornings helped. Waking up without a pit in my stomach helped. I didn't hear from Claire after the last desperate email until the anniversary of the day we met. That morning, an email landed in my inbox. No subject line, no emojis, no attachments. Just her words. She started with, "I don't expect a response," then went on. She said she still wakes up reaching for me. That sometimes she thinks she hears my keys in the lock and starts crying when it's just the wind. She talked about losing herself, that she chased validation and status, thinking it would make her feel worthy, and ended up losing the one person who actually made her feel seen. She confessed everything. Not just the affair, but the lies she told her family, the way she twisted my actions to justify her guilt. She admitted to bragging to her friends that I would never leave. She ended the message with, "If I could go back, I'd choose the night shift husband over the man in the suit every time. I just didn't realize what love looked like until I lost it. I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy. Goodbye." I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was something quieter, like watching the final page of a book close. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. Some stories don't need an epilogue, because the last chapter had already been written, and I was finally free to start a new one. I never imagined starting over could feel so quiet. No fireworks. No big win. Just a gradual return to myself. One step at a time. I got a new job at a small logistics company. Daytime hours. Less money, but enough to live. More importantly, enough to live without her. My coworkers didn't know anything about my past, and that was the best part. I got to decide who I was again. I started journaling. Not the kind with Dear Diary entries, but raw, gut-level stuff. What betrayal felt like. What silence sounded like. What it means to be the one who stayed loyal in a world that rewards the opposite. Eventually, I turned some of those journal entries into blog posts. I never expected anyone to read them, but they did. Hundreds of people started commenting, sharing their own stories. One woman wrote, "I thought I was crazy for staying after being cheated on. Your story gave me clarity." Another man said, "I'm where you were 6 months ago. I didn't think survival was possible until I read this." Their words cracked something open in me. Maybe my pain wasn't just mine anymore. Around that time, I met someone. Her name was Julia. We met at a bookstore of all places, both reaching for the same used copy of The Road. She was different. Gentle but not fragile. Curious about people in a way that didn't feel performative. I didn't tell her my whole story right away. I didn't need to. We talked, walked, laughed. She never once made me feel like I had to prove my worth. With her, I didn't feel like a man trying to rebuild. I just felt like me. And for the first time since Claire destroyed everything, that was enough. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I left. The silence. The vanishing act. The fact that I never gave Claire a proper confrontation. No screaming match, no door slamming, no chance for her to throw excuses at me and cry until I gave in. Would it have been more fair to face her? Maybe, but every time I think about those long nights, dragging myself home at sunrise, finding her asleep in the bed I was paying for, wearing perfume I didn't recognize, texting a man she swore was just her mentor, the answer sharpens in my chest like a blade. No, I don't regret leaving in silence, because if I'd given her the chance to argue, to twist the truth, I might have wavered. She was always good at manipulating tone, at weaponizing tears. She would have said things like, "You're overreacting," or "It didn't mean anything," or worse, "You weren't there for me." And maybe a part of me would have tried to fix it. But disappearing? That was power. Not to hurt her, but to finally choose myself. When I left without explanation, without a note or a warning, I took back control. I forced her to sit in her own wreckage without a scapegoat. No villain to point at, just her reflection and the mess she made. My therapist once said, "Closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a decision." That stuck with me, because if I'd confronted her, I would have had to watch her lie. And honestly, that would have hurt more than the truth I already knew. So no, I don't regret it. I regret trusting her. I regret ignoring my gut. But walking away without a sound? That was the loudest thing I've ever done, and it echoed longer than any scream ever could. Claire once told me I was predictable. She said it with a laugh, half joking, half not. "You're just steady, safe. I always know what you're going to do next." At the time, I took it as a compliment, but now, I realize it was her way of underestimating me, of assuming I'd always be there. Always forgive. Always bend. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd cry, scream, fall apart. She never imagined I'd vanish. She never saw the silent divorce papers coming. Never expected the legal strategy. Never thought I had the spine to walk away from the woman I loved without looking back. But that's the thing about quiet men. We don't explode. We observe. We endure. And then one day, we disappear. And when we do, it's not with chaos. It's with precision. Claire lost everything not because I destroyed her, but because she destroyed herself. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences, her job, her reputation, her fake fantasy with Brandon. It all crumbled under the weight of her own choices. And me? I built something better from the ashes, not a revenge story, not a comeback, just peace, steady, boring, beautiful peace. I wake up now without checking for lies. I go to sleep without wondering if someone else has taken my place. I live like a man who finally remembered his worth. And Claire? She's just a chapter now. One I don't reread, one I survived. She once said she always knew what I'd do next. But when I left without a word, when I let her drown in the silence, that's when she realized she never knew me at all.